here.
Very good.
Okay,
morning to you.
well, we're happy to have you back. I know you were expecting Linda or Kelly, but I'm stepping in for them. We're a little hectic over here. Why don't you just tell me, I know that you just returned from Brussels, and all of us this morning woke up to the news about the recent invasion. Based on your last conversation before you returned home, I mean, did you see this coming?
A bipartisan delegation of American members of Congress attended the NATO Parliamentary Assembly in Brussels over the weekend, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. That conference was put together to deal with the ongoing Russian threat. We've known for some time, maybe about 9 months now, that Russia would probably threaten and possibly invade Ukraine. I was absolutely surprised, but also very pleased to understand the incredible solidarity and unified purpose of the 30 parliaments of all of the nations of NATO. I had not expected that. The previous 4 years was an extremely difficult time for NATO, as President Trump did most everything he could to diminish and to lessen the unity in NATO. But the NATO countries all came together. And so as we ended that meeting Wednesday, and I returned back to the United States, there was unity of purpose. A specific plan was put in place to provide defensive armaments to Ukraine, and those are now being used as the Russian invasion is well underway, and also to enhance and strengthen NATO's defensive posture on the Eastern European countries, of the Baltic countries of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, Poland, the Ukraine, not Ukraine, but Romania and Bulgaria. All of that is now being in place. Simultaneously, the European Union, which normally can't agree on anything, agreed to put in place very strong sanctions. And now, as I've returned to the United States, the president is going to announce momentarily this morning additional United States sanctions in conjunction with the other strong democratic nations of the world. So the entire world is pushing back on what Russia is doing.
Can I ask you about these sanctions? That right now it looks like that's as far as we're going to take it. We're not talking about sending in any of our US troops into Ukraine or into Russia inevitably at this point, but we could see impacts of those sanctions financially here at home. I mean, what can people who live here in Northern California expect from that?
Well, we certainly know that the United States is not going to send its military troops into Ukraine. However, we will defend the NATO nations. That's the ironclad guarantee. The sanctions that have been announced will be double, triple, quadrupled today when the president speaks. The Congress of the United States also must pass additional legislation, hopefully Monday or Tuesday of next week before the State of the Union, to give the president authority to enact very severe sanctions on Russia. Those sanctions will have a worldwide effect. First of all, the sanctions are going to have a serious effect on assets that Putin and his oligarch cronies have throughout the world. I would hope that we simply seize those assets and take them away, or at least hold them away from those oligarchs. Secondly, the sanctions will limit imports into Russia of military technological equipment, and the banking opportunities will cease to exist for Russian banks. They will be excluded from the international financial markets. The oil and gas that Russia exports, which is more than half of their economic output, will be limited in part because the Nord Stream 2 pipeline from Russia through the Baltic to Germany will not be operating. That will cause a price spike of gas in Europe, and that will be reflected somewhat in the United States. Similarly with oil, Russia being a major oil exporter. But I would expect the United States and other oil and gas countries to ramp up their production. So there'll be some effect on the price of gasoline. Other issues we will remain to be seen. But clearly for the Northern California area, Beale Air Force Base and Travis Air Force Base are going to be very, very busy. Beale is intelligence, reconnaissance, all of that information from satellites, from other sources, all goes into Beale. It is processed there and then becomes the foundation for our intelligence assessments about what is going on in Europe and other places around the world. So a very, very important part of the United States and our allies' response will be here in Northern California at Beale Air Force Base. Travis also is the transportation hub for the West Coast. And we'll be moving equipment, men, women, materials into Europe to bolster the NATO defenses there. So all of these things are the impact on Northern California. I don't expect it to be severe. One of the most severe impacts we have right now is the unwillingness of the ocean carriers to export American agricultural products from our region. But that's a different issue.
Okay.